I want to welcome everybody today. It's webinar number 2 for the Introduction to MX. Today we're going to continue through the system, and this is the second of several webinars to introduce each of you to the new interface and help you feel more comfortable with the design concepts and the direction, as well as introduce some of the new features and capabilities. I'm actually really excited to show this to you and all the things that we've done. It's been a long time in the coming. Okay. Just to get an idea of everybody who's attending and how long they've been on the system, how long have you been using Mannix? Looks like we have a pretty good mix. Most people, good percentage of you over 10 years. So a lot of you have been on here for a long time. Several of you have just getting started. So this is good. Here's the agenda. Today we're going to go over the user interface, the part master, the BOM Import, and some Q&A. To also change it up and make sure that you get your questions answered, we will be doing a Q&A after each section so that you can ask your questions. So now that you're all familiar with the Q&A portion of it, if you have a question along the way, please don't wait until the end. Go ahead and submit it, and I will answer the questions in the Q&A section for each portion of the presentation. All right, with that, we'll jump into the user interface. Now, as much as possible, the user interface in MX has been standardized, simplified, and consolidated. The goals of the new user interface are to reduce the learning curve by having each screen using the same design concepts and a simplified approach, providing 100% of the functionality used by 80% of the users and make that easily available. I'll say that again. The new design, one of the intentions is to provide 100% of the functionality used by 80% of the users in the initial interface, so that most workers can get everything they need to do without clicking around everywhere and have it all in one central place. Common operations are made easier with fewer clicks, and obscure functions are still available, but you have an extra click to get to it, but it doesn't clutter the user interface, making it much easier for users to get up to speed with it. And we bring all related functions, or things that happen together often, into a single control panel. The system is divided into major sections. So you can have the top left, you have the M with menus for like the license and things. And then each major section, customer relationship management, or CRM, supply chain management, manufacturing operations management, which is your production control, accounting for all of the accounting related transactions, and then a search function. At this time, the search is specific to searching for serial numbers or specific IDs. So as an example, if I do a search for a specific ID, it will pull up information so you can see the ID itself with the details about the part, the purchase order number that it came in on, and all the relevant information if it's already been put into a work order or packing. So it makes it very easy to find the specific ID that you're looking for. In addition to the control panel approach, on the right side of every module or every control panel, you'll see the triple bar, which is the menu item. It includes things like reports, toolboxes, notifications, user-defined fields, and the settings. The reports, these are all the reports that are connected to whichever section you're in. The toolbox has any tools and utilities that exist for that section. Some sections will have a workflow to allow you to set up approvals and process flows for that section. Notification enables you to set up specific notifications for events. User-defined fields is where you will create the user-defined fields or specify them so that they can be used in the module. And then we've moved the settings from the settings module into each specific section so that you can grant the users of that section permission to modify their settings. So if there's drop-down lists or other values, checkboxes and whatnot, they can go in and specifically configure their section without having access to everything else in the system. Then continuing to the right of that, you'll have the plus sign, which is where you'll add records based on the module that you're in. And then the close button, which takes you back a step to whatever you were looking at before. And as you drill down and open up additional screens, that close button stays there, and that you close that to go back to the previous screen. In the user interface, there's the menu items that have the dashboard. So this is an example of a dashboard where you pull up inventory control and you can see the inventory management, receiving, inspection, buyer actions, issues, warehouse map, cycle counting, and physical inventory. These are all inventory related transactions, all in a central place, so you're not jumping everywhere. Do you have any questions related to the overall design concept for the new interface? Doesn't look like it. So we'll go ahead and jump into the next section. Next, we're going to jump into the part master. We'll discuss some of the recent changes to the AML structure and then cover the rest of the module. But we're going to go ahead and launch another poll. So which structure do you follow when creating new part numbers for your system? Do you do the one internal to multiple customer, supplier, manufacturers, separate for each customer, separate for each manufacturer part number, create a new part number for every item on the bill of material, or some other approach? Looks like almost everybody answered. Not surprising. Seems like most people do it either one internal for multiple customer, supplier, manufacturer. That's really the initial design concept of Mannix. Or they'll do a separate internal for each customer number. Okay, let's jump into the part master. Now the part master is the keystone of the application. Although it is designed to manage part numbers and related information for both components and assemblies, it's used throughout the application. Nearly every step in the entire flow relies on information from the part master. This covers everything from assemblies that you put on the sales order, parts that go onto a BOM for purchasing and production, components that you manage through the kitting and inventory control, finished good inventory that you ship and invoice. So if not done properly, it can quickly create a mess. Fortunately, Mannix has been aware of this from the very beginning. That was one of the initial problems we tried to solve, and designed the system around this requirement. Now, a lot of you have seen this flow before. It illustrates the relationship between internal part numbers, customer part numbers, and the AML. Because Mannix allows you to have a single internal part number to multiple customer, supplier, and manufacturer part numbers. We helped pioneer the capability and have championed that for the EMS industry all along. It provides unmatched visibility and control. However, it may create several instances of the same manufacturer part number connected to different records, which can increase the size of the database, reduce performance, and create additional maintenance. You'll notice that that same AVX part can exist for each of these. Consequently, we've made some changes to simplify and consolidate. The new design shifts the focus to the manufacturer part number, which creates several advantages. You have fewer records, which means a smaller database. You have shared records, which means faster updates and a single place to maintain the critical AML information. And you have greater visibility across the parts. It wasn't a small change, but it will have significant payoff and performance for all of you. So let's go ahead and jump into the parts master record. All right, in addition to the AML changes that we just discussed, we have also made some other significant improvements that we think you're going to love. From the beginning, part management and inventory control were closely connected, and in fact, they were run from the exact same screen. This gave a central place to manage part numbers and inventory. However, it also cluttered the daily operations and made it difficult to control access to the different aspects of the module. For example, it's common to have one group, often engineering, responsible for creating the part records and maintaining the quality and integrity, making sure it matches what the customer has specified, while another group, typically inventory, will manage the kitting and all of the components that are used for those part master records. In MX, we have cleanly separated the setup, the parts master, from the inventory control and parts use. This gives you a central place to manage the part numbers for both assemblies and components, while simplifying control of the inventory of those parts. Now, with MX, we've added some additional fields. Now, a lot of these are going to look familiar. You have your typical part with the source class, type, part number, revision description, so on and so forth. But we've added some additional fields to this part master definition, allowing you to track ITAR, whether the component is ITAR controlled, DFAR, which for those of you that don't know, it's the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation, basically provides regulations on sourcing of certain materials, whether or not the component has SID tracing, which SID stands for specific ID. Some people refer to it as unique ID. You may have heard it called IP key, lots of names for the same functionality. Basically, it means you get detailed information for every package, every reel, tube, tray, etc. at your facility. And this is where you would determine whether or not this component is SID traced. Now, at the manufacturer level, we can drill down one step further. We've added some additional fields for things like the moisture sensitivity or your moisture code, as well as the life cycle stage. So you can keep track of specific manufacturer part numbers to decide if it's active, not recommended for new design, last time buys, end of life, or obsoleted, as well as the shelf life and the quantity per package. This comes into play when you're receiving components. In this case, it's a quantity per package of 5. So I can expect this manufacturer part number to come in quantities of 5. So if I'm receiving 50 of them, the system knows to create 10 SID labels, so each one can be specifically tracked. As well as EICC validation to know whether it's compliant with that. The rest of the fields, I believe you should recognize. Also part of the bill of material module, you can go into the BOM list. Gives you a list of all of the assemblies that use that component, as well as the customer list, which shows you all of the customers. In this case, I picked a part that doesn't have any, but you can see all the customers that use the part with the customer part number and revision and the related manufacturer part numbers. And this is something that you'll see throughout the system. We have upgraded the notes so that instead of just a free-form text field that you can type in information and people forget to put in their initials and the date stamp, it automatically documents it so users can come in, enter their information, record a note, and you can see that it indicates the user that did it, the date and timestamp, and then whatever note that they've associated, as well as being able to attach files and images. So you can have a detailed history and collaborate with people better and know who added which notes. Do you have any questions related to parts management? And while giving you an opportunity to ask your questions, I'm going to pull up another poll. But please go ahead and, if you do have a question, go ahead and enter them into the Q&A. How important is managing the life cycle stage of each of the manufacturer part numbers? And if you do have questions, please, now's a good time to ask those questions. Okay, we'll go ahead and end polling. Got almost everybody reporting. Looks like it's mildly important, somewhat important, and critical, mostly somewhat important. That's good. Okay, so we have a question here. When you attach files and images, does it store the file path or the actual image document? So when you attach a file or an image, that file is uploaded to the server to a specific folder as previously designated by the IT admin. And then the application itself in the database stores the path to that file. So it's kind of both, where it is uploading it to the application. So you don't have to go the old method of finding a place on the server and then linking to it. It uploads it to the server and then stores a path to that file so that we don't unnecessarily increase the size of the database. Another question. Related to the BOM where used. It has the internal, so the question is, does it use the customer part number only or both the customer part number and internal? It looks like the list has the customer name, but it shows the internal part number and revision and description. Any other questions before we move on? Does the BOM where used show termination dates? As of right now, no. It's the active parts on there, but I can make a note. I've got your question recorded in here. I will submit that to see if that's something they can add in there or should be as part of that design. Another question, does the EAU calculate automatically or is it via manual entry? There's a utility to run to calculate the EAU as of right now, because you can change the range and what's included. So it's not an automatic calculation, but you don't manually enter it. You just run the calculation when you're ready for it. Got another question here. With a shift of emphasis from the internal to manufacturer part numbers in MX, is there a significant data conversion process to upgrade? There is a data conversion process, but that happens as part of the update. It's not something that users have to worry about. It'll all be behind the scenes and it'll just be part of the normal update. So we've covered the interface, the part master. Next, we'll jump into the bill of material. Because once the parts are defined, you can use them throughout the system. So the next logical place is within the bill of material module, or BOM. And that's where we'll go ahead and head next. As you know, the bill of material is just a collection of part numbers, could be components and subassemblies, some mix, that are used to manufacture the final top-level assembly. Mannix has always provided detailed control of the BOM, allowing users to create work center bills of material for better control, offset materials both for prior and later delivery, to manage cash flow, manage your resources, and inventory space, and also control the AML at the bill of material level, allowing user to further restrict the standard AML for any given assembly. All of these features have been carried forward into MX. So this is a bill of material in the new design. Here you have your part number, header information, as well as the management log, and some additional fields on the top. Because it is now browser-based, you have easy access to the user-defined fields that you've set up, as well as the component tree. Under the component tree, you can see each component on the bill of material, as well as drill down into the components on the daughter boards, so you can see all the way down to the lowest level. Just like the notes that we saw in the parts master, there's a BOM note with similar functionality where you can attach files and it date timestamps, puts the user information in there so you can have that full detail. You can also expand into the details of any given part by clicking on the row. And again, you can see user-defined fields. The difference between this user-defined field in the details and the one above is it's the user-defined field connected to that item on the bill of material. So you can attach user-defined fields to the item master record, to the bill of material record, and to the item on the bill of material. Another new feature in this is the cut sheet. This is great for the cable wire harness manufacturers, where the bill of material specifies the wire that's to be used, and then you can set up your cut cards to indicate, and you define all the fields that are used in that. So you can, I'll drill down into one so you can see what that looks like. So you can see how many wires of that length that you need, what the strip lengths and terminations are. And again, just like the user-defined field, you can set up as many fields in this as you want, and it's tied as a kind of like a sub-BOM to the bill of material that you could export to your cutting machines. And then, like we mentioned before, the BOM item notes allow you to see and track similar information, just that stuff that's connected to the specific line item on the bill of material. Just like before, you have the reference designators, all of the AML information with the ability to restrict the AMLs for the specific line item on the BOM, and then also see the alternate parts. It's a pretty simple screen, but allows the engineering team to have full control of the assembly that will be used for production. With that, we will jump into Q&A. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to launch another poll. How many levels exist on your deepest BOM? You know, most are probably one level, but just out of curiosity, what is your deepest bill of material? And while you're responding, I'll go through the Q&A. Can we create a part number in Arena and link it to Mannix? The APIs in Mannix will allow connections to third-party systems and allow you to extract that. And in fact, when we move into the BOM import next, I'll show you one way that it's connected and will continue, or the connection will be increased for CalcuQuote. And this could be extended to other systems like Arena as well. We don't have any native connections to Arena, but the APIs would allow that. All right, looks like most people have responded. Go ahead and just a couple people short. We'll end the polling, share the results. Most people between 3 and 4, which is what I've been telling people, so that's good to know. All right, if there's no more questions related to the bill of material, we'll go ahead and jump into, oh, there's a question. Excellent question. What is the ECN process for updating a bill of material? Users have the ability to update the bill of material from within the bill of material module, but the ECN module will be part of a future demonstration or future webinar, and we'll go over that whole process flow. But the suggested approach will be using the ECN module to update the bill of material, so you have full visibility of the changes, when it was approved, when it was applied, all that kind of stuff. All right, moving on to the next step. The BOM import is the next section that we'll cover. Now, a lot of you are familiar with the current BOM import module that exists in Webmannix. That functionality has been well received, receives lots of praise. So we're copying that exact same functionality into MX with some minor UI changes so it fits in the current design, but the same basic functionality will be there. I'll go ahead and show you what exists today. They haven't finished porting the whole thing yet, but I'll show you what's there, and just know that the functionality that exists today is what will be in the new system. All right, so here we have a bill of material that has been through the import. And let me show you some of the ways that you can import new parts or new assemblies. Clicking the BOM import, you can see you can download the templates, the XML, XLS, or CSV template, populate that from the records from your customer, select and upload it. Or if you have the Excel file from the customer, you can drag and drop it into the browser and it will run it through the import. And in the future, you will also be able to bring data directly from CalcuQuote. So after you've done the quoting process, you can jump in and directly port that information over. Oh, wait, you don't see that. Sorry. Here's the screen I was just discussing. So this is where you would download the templates, select the existing template from your desktop if you have it, or drag and drop the file into the browser, or as soon as it's ready, import from CalcuQuote. Now, just so you have it as a point of reference, because not everyone is familiar with the current import, I'll show you the way that it works today, and just know that this functionality will be included. So here we have a list of the parts from the assembly, and the color code is after the system has done an analysis indicating potential issues and concerns, and also alerting you of any information that it populated. And then the user has the ability to drill down into that and work with the reference designators, the AML information, as well as correcting any issues with the data provided by the customer. Like I said, the functionality as it exists today is basically just being directly ported from WebManage into MX into this new interface. All right, looks like we have some questions. Let's see what those are. In the new system, is there an easy way of changing a part that exists on several BOMs? I believe that is one of the plan changes for the ECO module. I'm going to make a note to ask the question specifically, but I know that's something that has come up, being able to update several BOMs at once. Will it assign our internal part number when copying from CalcuQuote? So in the import process, regardless of whether you're pulling it from CalcuQuote, which may have already pulled the internal part number out of Mannix to begin with, but assuming that there are some new parts on there, regardless of whether it's from CalcuQuote or from the Excel file, the system will try and identify existing parts so that you're not creating duplicates unnecessarily. And then if it doesn't exist, then obviously it will create a new part. But the goal is to assign existing parts wherever they exist. I do have another poll. Just out of curiosity, how many new assemblies are you loading into your system each month? Fewer than 5, 6 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, or more than 30? A lot of that has to do with whether you get a lot of repeat business or mostly prototypes. And we will go ahead and cut it off there. Looks like there's a bunch of you that do more than 30 or between 6 and 10. Actually, it looks like it's a fairly even distribution from 6 to 30. All right. Do you have any additional questions for BOM Import or anywhere else in the system? Excellent. Okay, there's another question. How is the standard cost handled in the new system per part number or manufacturer? That's a very good question. My understanding is it's still connected around the internal part number, because even though we're stocking it by manufacturer part number, you're still tracking it by internal part number because that's what's on the assemblies. We're just consolidating the management of that manufacturer part number so that you can update like your moisture sensitivity and life cycle stage and things like that. But it's still based on the internal part number. So the standard cost portion, I believe, is still handled around the internal part number. You can have, so there's a question on the lead time connected to the components versus the manufacturer part numbers. The lead time, there is a lead time setting for the part master so that you can indicate when you should be notified for that particular part record. But under the contract management, I believe there's a lead time tied to the manufacturer part number. Does the BOM import let you create a new customer part number if it's not available? Yes. So if the customer part number doesn't yet exist in the system, the BOM import will create a new customer part number. There a quantity on hand for each manufacturer on the main item master page. Okay, so that comes back to the separation of the part master from inventory control. In the current version, they are one and the same screen. So in the definition of the part, you also see all the quantity on hand information. In the new system, inventory control is separate from part management, or the definition of the part. And so you don't see the quantity on hand under the part master. We will be going over the inventory control in a future session. I don't remember if it's the next one or the one after that. And then we'll go over all of that so you can see that. Thank you, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.